Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Good evening and welcome to another Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. That's right, Ben Stowe, the guy that you had on your bingo card right in the middle because he is always there and free. Wait, no, the middle's free. That probably is not a good place to put you. He's in the corner. That's right. That's Ben Stowe. He's always in the... No, that's not a good place to put you either.
Nobody puts Ben Stowe in the corner.
No. I gotta rethink this whole bingo thing. We'll have to come back to that and try it again some other day. So
I feel like that was a movie line. But anyway.
Could have been. It
probably puts Ben in the corner.
Probably was a movie that I slept through. So, I don't watch movies like I did when I was younger. It's like, wow, it's 9 o'clock, kids. You're starting a movie now? Yeah. Unless, of course, there's, if it's a Star Wars, then, it's a different story. Yeah, different story. Okay, so we are back with a Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe, and that means that we've got a variety of questions, a couple of questions we're going to be doing, getting into a topic tonight outside of our questions, and then, of course, we have our Ben Stowe Joke of the Week. So we're going to get started with the Joke of the Week. All right, so we have, hey, I don't know what that was there. I'll get that cleared out of there. So, Ben, this week's joke, what do you got for us?
So
that was a big sigh.
I'm running out of jokes. So this one, it's not really funny at all. So it's not the joke. But it says, how do you spot a DJ in a car full of people? They're the ones constantly fiddling with the knob and saying, check this out. I'm like, no, that's not even funny. That's just like, that kind of hits close to home. I'm like,
that actually does,
Yeah, they're the one playing with the radio, right? Anyway, so I don't know how that's a joke. Anyway, so that's not a joke. That's not the joke. All right, here we go. So,
okay.
And viewers, please bail me out for the love of God. I come here almost every week and I give you useful information on technology and I help you. You got to help me here. You get I'm struggling. These jokes, I don't know, man. You gotta help me, people, please. You gotta help me. And this is how desperate we are. This is what I have for a joke today. So, what's a DJ's favorite kind of coffee?
What is a DJ's favorite kind of coffee?
A techno blend.
A techno blend. Oh, I see what you did.
Come on, people, you gotta save me.
I see what you did there.
Ooh, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Hopefully, we have some more useful topics later.
Yeah, we'll get some stuff here. So let me get these things cleared. Okay, so
I'm gonna resort to non-DJ jokes pretty soon.
Well, we could do music industry jokes, and then some of you'd have to.
I got a million of those. How can you tell when your stage is perfectly level?
Okay, I have no idea how you can tell when your stage is perfectly level. Your
drummer is drooling out of both sides of his mouth.
Okay, so that's actually pretty good.
I'm a failed drummer. All right, so here's another one. How do your no, I'll do this one. Why was the bass player mad at the drummer?
Okay, I have no idea why the bass player was mad at the drummer.
Because the drummer turned a couple of his tuning pegs and then wouldn't tell him which ones. So anyway, I could do these. I can do music jokes all day.
Well,
yeah.
Then we can expand our horizon because a lot of our viewers are musicians on the side, or some of them are musicians who DJ on the side.
It's very common. Yeah. It's really. So one of our viewers, our good friend Alan, just said that's an old one. Yeah. Well,
I mean, let's face it. Come on, Alan. We're not that young. We made.
All right, Alan. Pressure's on, Alan. I need a better joke. Hurry up! I watch my texts here. You got 3 seconds to come up with a better joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we were good. All right, let's go to our first question of the night. Okay, Ben. So for our first question of the night, now we'll use the second one as this. When I had them numbered, we'll go in that route. So, but somebody was talking about the struggle of moving their gear from a vehicle to the area, and where the discussion, the way it initially started, is that they had a huge booth, and even Dan Carpenter has talked about this. They had built a booth where they could just stick everything in the booth and wheel it in.
Sure.
And then they get into a situation where they can't do that anymore. So now they're having to carry individual pieces, the speakers and different things. And they're like, okay, so what can I do to make this easier on myself and to be able to find something that can handle thresholds and going across a variety of different surfaces? And they're wondering what you would suggest for that, since you've been across many of those surfaces with gear.
Yeah, I've done a lot of load-ins in my years as a DJ, and certainly other types of events that I do. So, it depends, right? I mean, caster size is always important. A bigger caster is going to roll over bigger obstacles, but bigger casters mean bigger casters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at risk of saying the obvious, we kind of have a saying with our load ins that if it has wheels, roll it, and if it doesn't, put it on something that has wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take a case that doesn't have wheels and put it on a case that does, and now you have a rider. But if you've got hard 4-inch casters and you've got soft grass to roll over, it's probably not going to happen. With the intercom systems that we built for football teams, we had very large 8 or 10-inch pneumatic wheels on those cases, and pros and cons, of course. So I don't think there's a quick, easy, one-size-fits-all answer here.
Mm-hmm.
Rock and Roller makes some awesome all-terrain carts with their big fat glider wheels in the front. I like those. Those are much better for going over obstacles like that. Again, if you've got the smaller hard casters, it's just not gonna, clear that obstacle as easily, right? But here again, they say there just is no one-size-fits-all answer. Other than get a bunch of roadies, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And as you're talking caster size, I mean, obviously knowing what type of events or, having an idea, because we've had times where we had to go into across a golf course, part of a golf course, because we had a tent out here on the green somewhere, and it was not super soft, but I mean, it was softer than a concrete hallway type of a thing.
That's where those wide wheels help, because you've got more surface area. It's not going to dig in as much. It's not going to cut into the grass. Again, we've got, hard rubber casters on a lot of our gear, and it's great on concrete. But as soon as you get onto a softer surface like that, it maybe isn't going to work. And when we encounter that, now these aren't going to be popular answers really, but when we've encountered that in the past, we've actually made plywood roads. We've brought 10, 12, whatever sheets of plywood and just made a road from the truck to our load in. Again, I could see a whole bunch of DJs groaning right now going, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. Well, it is, but it's not as much work as digging a road case out of the mud.
Right.
So I think that maybe the word of the day here is advance, and that is to know what you're getting into before you get there, so you can be prepared for your load in. I think, preparation is going to be key here. Maybe there is a way, and I don't know, this is going to be very situational, right? But maybe you can coordinate with the venue or the golf course. The golf course probably doesn't want you wrecking their grass either, right? So there might be some common ground where they might say, oh, well, we have a gator or something that we can drive around, or if you can get it here, we'll get it there, whatever. And a lot of times, we require things like forklifts and whatnot to get our stuff out of the truck safely. So you don't want to find out when you get there they don't have one. That communication has to occur ahead of time.
You mentioned, of course, with the microphone systems at football games, you guys were running carts, what have you, that had big pneumatic tires. Are there any of the I'm a fan of Rock and Roller. I have multiple of them. Do any of the companies, though, make those carts with large inflatable tires like that anymore? Have they've all gone to the never flat type tires?
Yeah, they've all gone to like the never flat, which is fine. They behave like pneumatic tires. They work really just as well. I was just kind of looking back to see if I could find an example of an intercom case.
I know we've had them on the show because when we talked about some of the wireless systems and things, and you were able to show. So I think some of them had like looked like a bicycle tire. I think I've seen one of those. And then, of course, it looked like a wheelbarrow size tire.
Yeah, let me see if I can Got one. You can kind of see this picture here. Let me just do a quick share here if we can. All right, can we see that picture okay?
Yep, it should.
Coming through.
Yep, I just got to clear all layers here and see. There we go. That way folks can see the full thing. Okay, yes.
Okay, so it's kind of hidden behind this gate down here, but let me just see if I can zoom in.
Well, even the Gatorade cart, you look at that's got wheels under it.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Yeah,
and they're
and
big.
they're
You can see
big.
how big they are. And here you can see
Yeah,
these
same thing. Yep.
tires on this intercom cart. You know, these big, fat pneumatic tires.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Let me see if I can find some more examples.
Oh, and then the garbage can has got tires on it too. Hey.
Well, yes, there's a little trend here. You know.
Yeah, everyone's got it. If you can, you can roll
now,
it.
Okay, I just found one from a team that typically plays in a dome, and they have small hard wheels on there. So, you know, that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Golly. Let's see if I can find. Oh, here we go. Let's see. We have any Iowa State fans here?
Mm-hmm.
So we can see. Can you see the bottom of this picture now?
Yep. We can.
See those big tires down there?
Yep. Just on the edge there, yes.
Let me try to zoom in here and we'll take a look at that nice logo. Huh?
Yeah, look at that. That's fancy.
Let's get on down here. Can you see the wheels at the bottom?
There we are. Yep.
So, you know, and again, a lot of these stadiums, they have, you know, paved tracks around the outside and things, but there are many times we have to go across grass, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I got some more. Oh, well, here's an example. Again, Iowa State, please don't hold it against me. But here you can see, hopefully, we're out on the grass, and I don't know why this thing's not letting me zoom in, but anyway, you can see what's going on down there. So.
Yeah, and you got a non cement type surface. It might be a solid surface, but it's not the nice smooth that we would have indoors. Yeah,
and if I go, I mean, if you know, I'm obviously kind of shooting from the hip here, quick as I can. But if I pulled up all the pictures from all the national championship games, you know, you're going to see more of the same. It's really just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And they for those, they want to have that cart that can go in on turf. It can go in on, you know, a hard surface, or if it's a grass surface, that it's giving you that ability.
Alan just sent a picture. He's trying to redeem himself here for criticizing my jokes.
Yeah, about time. I mean, we've been waiting for him to redeem himself for quite a while from his
years. Anyways, no. So he sent a picture of a cart, and I can't get it to pull up here, but it's basically a little wagon with, you know, so I mean, it looks like kind of like a garden wagon, and I hadn't thought of that. Alan's a pretty smart guy, despite all the trash I say, you know, but it you know, looks like kind of a garden wagon with big tires, you know, and I don't think that's going to work carrying something like a whole DJ booth. You know, your mileage may vary there. I don't know. Those are some unique challenges there.
Yeah, I guess it's mentioning garden carts. You know, Gorilla Carts, and many of them make those. And if you were looking, some of those are designed to go through dirt and over sand. So, you know, they are a wider. The ones that I have are wide. Goodness, I bet you they're 5 inches wide. The pneumatic tires on that, because we can pull them behind a lawnmower if we wanted to. So.
Yeah. So I like I said, I'd love to tell you there's an easy answer here, but I think there's probably a lot of creative answers.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, when you start talking about things like preloaded booths, like a towed booth or a max booth or something, I mean, the rules kind of change here, I think.
Very quickly.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. All right, let's jump to our next topic. So tonight's going to be a little bit different. It's not quite the TED Talk, but I wanted to, Ben, touch base on today. Well, kind of, pretty much the big talk across the internet was for DJs was the whole Apple Music thing. Apple Music has been available on one software for being able to be used for playback with DJ. today's Serato, many of the manufacturers are basically, we're excited because Apple has now made it so that with an Apple subscription, you can have access to their library, and you can mix that on your devices and with your software. What I wanted to talk a little bit about, because many of our friends who are PC people have never given Apple much beyond the time of day. And you and I have both been using Apple products and have utilized many of their services and such. So I thought this might be a great spot for us to kind of just talk a little bit about, for those who are like, I don't know if I should utilize Apple stuff. We've been there, and we can talk about how much we like it or hate it.
Well, I use Apple Music because, as you said, I have a Mac and I have an iPhone, whatever. But I think just thinking back to when I first started in the industry in 1993, you had to have physical media for whatever you were going to play. You had to go get a CD or vinyl or whatever, and I mean, I think about the vast library that Apple has and how much I've enjoyed that just from a music listener standpoint. There's really nothing that you can't find on there. I was just, it was, excuse me, I was doing sound this weekend, and I was talking to one of the promoters agents, and we were talking about the band, it's on Apple Music, and go pull up
Yep.
It doesn't really matter what you want to find. They probably have it. So that's pretty awesome. And, when I was first starting to DJ, you could get things like, hot hits or promo only or, whatever, those kinds of things, X mix, but it was always new stuff. There was a promotional value to the record companies to put out this new stuff. So, I relied on things like Time Life Music, to build a library of 50s and 60s or whatever, staples like that. Well, now, I mean, for, mere dollars a month, you have access to just about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge game changer. And I realize that there's record pools, and I know that Apple's not the only one and they're not the first. But to me, that was kind of the thing where I thought, my gosh, I mean, it's almost an overwhelming amount of content.
Yeah.
And I think too, if we look at, DJs probably still play less than 1,000 songs regularly. And we could probably curate that list down to a much smaller number than that even.
Yep.
But now you have access to, I don't even know how many songs are on Apple Music. It's got to be a staggering number.
Huge, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that has become such a spot. And there have been a number of times where I've been needing a song, and it's been available in one spot. I could find it on Apple Music, version of something or whatever, because people utilize it for their playlists. And it, the ability to just go and say, oh, here's the song, and click and make it play just hasn't been there for our devices. So I was excited.
I can't say this with I've not researched this or verified this, but I would believe that they have the most complete selection. If not, they're right up there with everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, they because they made that commitment to the industry all those years ago, they made that a very purposeful mission to make Apple Music what it is. So there isn't going to be much you can't find there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody was asking, we have some of our friends who work at many of the different pools, promo only being one of them. We know a lot of the guys there. And somebody's asking if this is going to kill them. And I don't think it's going to, from the standpoint is that the things that I, as a DJ, music videos. Apple, while it does have some music videos, doesn't have, what promo only has. And the other side of it is that promo only, and others do top hits and they do too, but they'll clean up songs.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, there's the studios at promo only that they're doing stuff that's DJ centric and DJ specific. And promo only support of the industry is second to none.
Right.
They've been long time one of the leading supporters of the industry without a doubt. So, sorry, cough still here, everybody. Surprise. Anyway, I hope not. Because I think it would just be a travesty to see them go away. But like you said, the videos and then the cleaned up content and maybe some of the remixes and things, but I think promo only still has a lot of value. And, and the reality is so cheap, you know, compared to what we used to spend on music.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, for the price of 2 or 3 CDs, you can have both promo only and Apple Music. I mean,
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, one subscription to the Columbia House, you know, and you had to buy your, you know,
I probably still owe them a few.
yeah,
Probably have to.
I think I need
Probably still have to buy a few more CDs to
get it,
fulfill my
yeah.
obligation to Columbia House.
Yeah.
But hopefully they're not watching the show
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, I think we're on their radar by now. So.
Yeah, I'll send you a check.
Yeah, there you go. Alrighty, let's jump to our last question of the night. All right, the last question, and this will be our big one for the night. Gear life expectancy. Many of us have been in this industry for at least a year or two, maybe 3. And gear doesn't last forever. So if I'm wanting to kind of project and kind of budget or be thinking about, you know, replacement cost, replacement timelines, how can I go and be kind of figuring these things out and doing it in a responsible manner for my business?
You know, I'm going to take a little spin on this because when you suggested this as a potential topic, it really touched a nerve for me in a good way. I thought this is a great opportunity to say something that I think has been needing to be said for a long time, because by and large, and this is not everybody, but by and large, DJs and musicians are not good money managers. They're not good business people.
Yeah.
And that bothers me because, you know, we want them to be successful. We want them to be good business people. You know, and I say that because of the way that I've witnessed DJs buy gear for the last 30 years. You know, literally decisions like, well, we'll see how I do on the gaming floor in Vegas, and I'll come back to your booth the next day. And I thought, that's not.
Hey, I had a good night that night, so I came back and bought that.
Yeah, but you got lucky, John. You know, but
I mean, let's face it, a roll of tape, that's a major investment.
It is, and I understood that you had to call Lori and ask her, but you know, obviously we're making light of this, but I think, and some DJs right now might feel a little bit, you know, put out. They might feel a little, you know, pardon the expression, but butthurt. You're the ones who should pay attention the most to the next 5 minutes, because this could change your life in the best possible way. And believe me, I have walked that walk in that corner over there.
Yep.
Yes, we all have. That's a light made out of 2 coffee cans. And thank God I married an accountant who's somebody who straightened me out. So I don't really know these things. They've just been beaten into my head, and it has made me a far happier and more successful person. So we're going to talk not only about the gear's life expectancy itself, but how you can have better gear more of the time and less stress about it.
Nice.
And hear this, because I had to hear it. Money problems are a behavioral problem. And believe me, I needed to learn that. So whatever you're thinking and whatever emotions you have right now, and however much you feel like I've just stepped on your toes or offended you, that's fine. But if you think about this a little bit and you think hard about what I'm going to say in the next 5 minutes, it's going to benefit you a lot. So here we go. I'm going to share a PowerPoint. First things first, let's talk about depreciation. So we're going to talk about, this is all going to be tax stuff, all right? But depreciation means you can write that gear off. Well, you can always write your gear off, you know, setting aside a few minor circumstances, but depreciation means you don't have to write it off all at once. And you'd say, well, why would that be a good thing? Well, you know, if you have too much profit, you can write it all off at once. More on that in a minute. But if you want to continue to have that write-off over several years, depreciation can be a really good way to spread that write-off out over the length of the gear's life. Okay.
Yes.
So here's a few things that have to be met. You have to own it, right? It must be used in your business or income-producing activity. And it must have a determinable useful life, which we'll talk about in a section. And all of this, by the way, comes from IRS publication 946. More on that in a minute. And it has to be expected to last more than a year. And the reason for that is because a tax cycle is a year. So, if it's gonna last less than a year, then you just write it off all in that year, and it's not a depreciated. It's depreciated to zero in 1 year. So you just write that off, right? That would be like consumable supplies, gaff tape. You're not going to depreciate, right? You're going to write that off.
Yep, it goes in a different spot.
Speakers, you probably should depreciate. Again, unless you are making too much money and you need to write it off faster, in which case then you'll have a new problem next year because you're probably still making too much money. You have to find another, write-off, right? These are really good conversations to have with a CPA. Yep. I'm not a CPA, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express one time. So
yeah, there was that. Yeah, and that makes you like pretty much an expert.
And you know what? And listen, hear this, folks. I'm gonna cuss, John. I'm sorry, but I've had my ass chewed by a lot of CPAs. All right, so I've learned a lot of these lessons the hard way over the last 30 years running a multi-million-dollar company. All right, I've had to relinquish the reins, and believe me, I have been called into a room of people with suits, and I have had my ass chewed. So you can learn from the chewings that I've got. and anyway. So section 179 is where you can write everything off in 1 year. So let's say you made too much money or you're going to make too much money and you don't want to pay all that to Uncle Sam in taxes. And that's dumb, honestly. Why wouldn't you want to spend that money on gear instead of taxes?
Yep.
Just saying, because the gear will make your business more money and make it more successful. The taxes, well, it makes you a good American. But other than that, so these rules are here for you. All right, here's some rules. And again, I mentioned that consult publication 946. It's a real gripper, a real cover to cover reader. Let me tell you. Anyway, all right, moving on. There is a limit to how much you can write off in a year. And it's about $1.2 million. So beyond that.
Gosh, that just cuts out a lot of DJs because they needed 1.3.
Well, at least you got 1.2 and you can depreciate the rest.
Yeah. There we go.
Consult your CPA. I'm not a CPA. All right.
Over.
So let's look at a few things here. So let's say that you make a $5,000 speaker purchase. Okay. And we're going to put it on a 5-year depreciation schedule. And that's what most capital equipment is depreciated at, 5 years. Again, consult your tax preparer, your CPA. But so that equates to $1,000 you can deduct every year. So your speakers are worth $4,000 after year 1 and $3,000 after year 2 and so on and so forth because you're depreciating them down to 0. Now, if the service life exceeds 5 years, you're going to have no more depreciation after year 5, and you now pay 100% tax on whatever you could have depreciated on that. You can't anymore. You've depreciated it to $0. Because you've done that, if you sell these as salvage value or, whatever, you sell a used set of speakers, that's now taxable income. You sold something that was worth nothing, according to the depreciation. Now, does that mean you should get rid of your speakers after 5 years? No, not necessarily. More on that in a second, the actual usable life. But the point is, this is when you're going to run out of depreciation. And now you're going to be basically paying tax on any income those speakers have generated. So let's take a look at it on a per event basis, because I want you to make money. I do. I want you to have a tax problem. I want you to be successful. And by the way, we can help you with gear that you can then depreciate. See how that's a win-win for both of us?
It works around there. Yep.
Yeah. I help you make a lot of money. You buy new gear, you get more gear. We get more sales. Everybody wins in this deal. See? All right. So let's just say those speakers have a 7-year service life. Even though they have a 5-year depreciation schedule, we're just going to talk about service life right now. They have a 7-year service life. So we say we expect these speakers to last 7 years. Now, this depends. And of course, there are speakers that are much older than 7 years, and there are also people who burn through speakers much faster.
Yep.
In the touring and production realm, we tend to have like a 10 to 15-year service life, but we also paid a lot more for those speakers. We bought heavy duty industrial stuff expecting it would last longer. So we're spreading out that amortization over a longer period of time.
Certainly.
If you bought really cheap speakers, they probably won't make it 7 years. But it depends on how you use them. And there's undoubtedly guys out there right now that are running speakers that are older than that. So everything has a variable here. So again, just for the sake of some math, I threw some numbers at it. Let's say you've got a $5,000 speaker purchase. You anticipate a 7-year service life, and you do an average of 30 events per year. So that is a cost per event of $24 per that $5,000 speaker purchase, right? So every event, those speakers cost $24 of that $5,000 over the expected 7-year service life. Now, that doesn't mean you should charge the client $24 for them, because you probably want to make some money on them. So, you should figure out what your desired margin on this is. Plus, the speakers, excuse me, the speakers are really a delivery vehicle for the more valuable part of your event, and that is you. So they allow you to deliver your talent, right? So there's also that. And you can use these kinds of things more on inventory in a second, but to figure out what should you be charging and what is your profit, and from that you can figure out how much money do I have to spend on advertising or bridal shows and that sort of thing. But I'm also not worried about my equipment purchases, because I've budgeted for that and I've planned for that, and that money's going to be there. I've set this money aside anticipating these things are going to need to be replaced.
Yep.
So here are some, we'll call them typical expected service lives. And anything beyond that's bonus money. But remember, if you don't schedule time for maintenance for your gear, it will schedule it for you. So something to remember. So loudspeakers, typically 5 to 7 years. Lighting, 3 to 7 years. And this really depends. It really depends on what you buy. And there's a massive difference here, in the quality and the longevity and how it's used. So again, these are for budgetary purposes. And, if you budget to replace the lighting in 4 years and you are able to successfully use it for 6 or 7, you're ahead of the game. You just made more money on that purchase, right? Controllers, 3 to 5 years. This probably also depends somewhat on you. And another comment coming up on that in a second. Analog mixer is probably a longer life. Wired mic, maybe 10 years, maybe longer. Wireless mic, 5 to 7. Analog effects cables, of course, last forever. So that's the best investment you can make, without a doubt, because you'll never have to replace them unless you lose them. And of course, this goes back to the controller thing, but technology or trends may render your gear obsolete before they fail. You may decide, for example, I don't want this type of loudspeaker anymore. I want a column array now, or I want white, or I don't like this controller anymore. I want this one that supports Apple Music, or, stems or whatever. So these kinds of things can move this needle a little bit. But when you are planning for replacement and you're planning for obsolescence and you're budgeting for it, it is a whole lot less stressful. And this will not change overnight. This is something that takes some time to get into that groove. But the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant a tree is right now. So we do this with our own equipment. We do this with things like computers. It's like, okay, we know we're going to replace it, so let's not pretend we're not. And let's have a game plan. I guess this is as good a time as any to get into this slide. We want to know that gear is going to be reliable and it's going to continue to make us money. It's very important, right? We also plan to grow. Speaking on the live event side, so we are buying new gear every year, both to replace gear we're rotating out, and also to grow our capabilities. We're adding things that we didn't have previously. And that would be the same thing for you. You might say, well, I'm going to add, a lighting effect this year. I'm going to add cold sparks, or, whatever. I don't know, chocolate fountain's still a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think
Chocolate ice cream is, but not chocolate fountain.
Because we looked at our anticipated service lives, we can have a, rotated, replacement schedule, where you're kind of planning for that loudspeaker replacement, that sort of thing. And again, if your timeline moves by a year or two in either direction, it's not a super stressful thing at that point. This is a biggie. I own a lot of gear. A lot of gear. And I know down to the XLR cable, how many I have. And it is not an exaggeration to say that I have thousands of XLR cables, but I know how many I have. And I know how many clamps I have. And I know how many rugs I have for stage. You know, I know how many music stand lights I have. It doesn't matter, right? And all this stuff is tracked. And I know when it goes out to an event and it generates some revenue, it has to, you know, be a part of that equation, right?
Sure.
And thus I'm able to plan for replacement and obsolescence and maintenance and failure. And my system is not perfect, not by a million years. No way. But it is good enough. You know, it's good enough that we can make these capital plans to replace gear, to repair gear, and to add to our gear because we know what we're taking out. And I would challenge every DJ to do the same. Know what you have in your system, know what it costs you, know how long you anticipate to use it, and then you know how much money it needs to generate you.
Yep. Excellent.
And it's going to be a little painful at first.
Yeah.
Because it's a behavioral change and it's not fun. But it gets much more fun. It gets much more fun when, you know, you're able to be ahead of the curve. And you can call us up and order what you need, and you're not stressed out about it. We have several customers who function this way, so this is not applied to everybody. But I can tell you that they're probably much happier customers. You know,
just the stress level, I think, is probably the biggest part that you would have.
And and it pains me because you know that my least favorite part about this business is the money. I wish I didn't have to charge for gear. I wish I got it for free and I could give it to you for free. It brings me joy when we do that. I love helping people with that. I love watching people's businesses grow. I think there's probably a lot of you that are watching who would say, yeah, you've helped my business grow. And that makes me happy. And this is one of those things. I would love to take that stress level out for you. I would love to make this an easier process so we can just go about doing the things we truly love, which is using the gear.
And that's something we really like to do. So Ben, you mentioned, of course, the life expectancy or the years per gear. And it made me, you know, kind of jump into looking back to when the Evolve 50s, because a lot of us have them. A lot of us have multiple of them. And, you know, that was 2017.
Yep.
So let's do our math. They're coming up on 8 years this August.
Yep.
And, you know.
And, you know, it's this might be the case where, you know, they're working fine. You know, maybe we just start planning for maintenance. You know, we just start planning for a driver failure or a module failure, or maybe you replace the Evolve 50s with new Evolve 50s.
Exactly.
You know?
That's the point, is that the 5 year of depreciation, I think actually, if I remember correctly, I think mine were on a 3 year. We did a 3 year is what we did on ours. And of course they were paid for, and then they're all good. And now we're to the point where, you know, we've been hemming and hawing about, okay, is it time to replace them? Not so much because they're failing. They sound great and they're working wonderfully with our shows and such, but it's to the point now where we have some money set aside and wondering, do we get?
And you know that they've got 7 years on them, and you know, maybe you sell them used to somebody at a deep discount, and that's your salvage value because they've been depreciated to zero long ago. So you've got, we'll call it salvage value, and somebody else is able to use them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, probably without incident. But you know, now you have a fresh set, you know, with a fresh, the timer is reset.
Yeah, basically, yes.
So you're not worried about, you know, I mean, you know, we have the same conversations every day. You know, it's, well, these amplifiers are coming up on 10 years old, you know, we need to think about replacing those just for the sake of reliability. I know they'll probably run for 25 years. You know,
they certainly could. Yeah.
They'll just do it for somebody else, you know, because I'm gonna sell them and you know, replace them and reset the clock, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, let me see. The link for NLFX Pro website, by the way, is in the description of the video. You guys can pop out there and take a look at your next speakers because, you know, you probably did like I did and you bought the Evolve 50s and now you're debating, should I stay with 50s or should I go 70s? Huh? You know, the deep questions. But anyway, pop out to the website. You can check those out.
That's one of those things that can change the game for you a little bit, you know, where, you know, again, obsolescence or industry changes, you know, can move the needle faster than failure.
Oh,
know?
very much so. I mean, and even circling back to what we discussed a few minutes ago with Apple, if you have a controller or something that doesn't, and that you would benefit from that technology, your controller, while it be a very functional board, might be obsolete. It's crazy how that happens.
And bottom line, I just want you to be happy using your gear. The forums are a source of constant frustration and entertainment at the same time for me. I don't know why we treat each other the way we do sometimes, but I can tell you that when you're running a business and you've got an amortization schedule and a depreciation schedule and a plan,
So much.
Those comments don't bother you so much. You kind of look at the forums and you go, yeah, man.
So
you, because I'm doing me.
Yep,
you know,
for sure. Okay, I got to read this one and then we'll wrap up here. Dave put in there. So, can Ben send a reminder out to our spouses every 3 to 5 years, telling us we need to replace our gear? I mean, I think that would be. There should be like an email list. That
Listen. I'll just tell you this: I'm married to an accountant. Nobody thinks more about money than accountants, and my wife has never told me not to buy gear. Never. Because the gear exists for one purpose, and that is to make money. The gear is a tool with which I make money. If your spouse is telling you not to buy gear, there might be a good reason why. And maybe because you don't have a plan. You know, if you're buying a new controller every year, as much as we dealers would love that, the truth is that's not a good plan. You know, unless you're just making so much money that you can depreciate it. But I'm just saying, if you know, and look, I'm not telling you I'm not a marriage counselor, but I'm just saying if you have a plan and and there's money in the bank and you go to your spouse and you're like, look, here's the plan and here's how this is going to make money and here's how this is saving us money on taxes. You know, you don't have to convince your spouse. Let the CPA convince your spouse. You know, the business generated X dollars and we're about to spend this much in taxes. Or we can be refreshing our gear, not pay that much in taxes, and then have more reliable gear so we can make even more money. I mean, at the end of the day, either you're running a business or you're not. And that's okay if you're not. If this is a hobby, then you have to justify that to your spouse, right? That's, you know, I have a hobby too. It's restoring antique tractors and it's expensive. And, you know, I do have to justify that to my spouse. But I've never had to justify a sound equipment purchase.
And again, because of having the plan is a huge part of it.
In fact, she has told me, you guys are going to hate me right now. All the guys are just going to absolutely hate me because one, I'm married to a beautiful, beautiful woman, you know, so I know you're already jealous, but that's okay. And Alan's texting me here too. I can't wait to see what he said. But anyway, my wife told me one time, recently, but she said, you need to buy more gear. Let that sink in. She said, you have a tax liability from the shows you've done and the work you've done as a live sound engineer. Now, this is separate from NLFX.
Yep.
You know, this is, you know, so I'm just saying, don't get it twisted. But my wife said, you need to buy more gear. Which, by the way, I'm a great customer at NLFX.
Yeah,
you know?
It's part of that process, but yeah.
Could you guys imagine, is there anything sexier your wife could say to you than you need to go buy gear? So go get a plan, guys. Go get a plan.
I was thinking, you know, do you want, you know, hot fudge on your ice cream? Wouldn't that be pretty hot too?
Close second, but
okay, close second. We'll take it.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, when your business is making money and it is profitable, and it is demonstrably so, because you have done the math to run your business like a business. Number one, keep separate books. You know, don't keep your business money in your back pocket have a bank account and have a ledger. I don't care if it's a spreadsheet. I don't care if it's, QuickBooks or whatever, but know what your business is doing and have a P&L, profit and loss, have an appreciation and amortization schedule. It's going to change your life, guys.
Definitely
and gals. I just keep saying guys, but and gals, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you are, it's going to change your life. Mm-hmm. And then when you're making all this money, please just remember us, because on the equipment side, I will say this, on the equipment resale side is a whole different ballgame. We're making teeny tiny little margins, and trust me, it's way more fun to use the gear than to sell the gear. Mm-hmm. So come back and support my colleagues and my coworkers at NLFX by buying your gear from us there. So
there you are. Excellent. Thank you, Ben. Good stuff as always. So up next, you guys can head out to djntv.com/chill. The chill room will be open here in just a little bit, and they'll be doing their Tuesday night music chat. Brian and Jay and John and the crew will be in there and having some fun and talking music tonight. So join them and enjoy the evening. And we'll be back again. Let's see. I think we've got a couple of weeks. We should be around, I think, if it works out for Ben for the next couple.
God willing. So if this cough ever goes away,
yeah, well, June is coming. Usually we lose it about June, and
I'll tell you what, I'm getting tired. It's like an annual thing, but yeah, I'm looking. I got some shows. Looks like I got Neil McCoy this weekend. He's great. Looking forward to that. Yeah, some fun stuff coming up. But yeah, Tuesdays should be good, man. Looking forward to jumping on here.
Sounds great. We'll plan to see you guys next week. Everyone, have a good evening. Good night, everyone.